I saw you were from Pennsylvania. Are you still living out in that area?
Yeah, I live probably, I think it's like 8 miles or so from Philadelphia. It's in a little bit of suburbs in Media, Pennsylvania.
That's crazy, man, to end up kind of where you grew up. Was there any period of time where you haven't lived in that area, or did you just stick around?
I moved, at the time, my girlfriend, now my wife, we moved out to Westchester, Pennsylvania, which you probably may be familiar with all the Jackass guys and BAM and all them. They're from Westchester.
Okay. I didn't know that.
A lot of that was filmed out there, but we moved out there. We have a lot of friends out there. So it's about like a 25 minute from here. Nothing crazy, nothing too far. You know what I mean?
Right. Is Westchester, this is a totally ignorant question, but I mean, is it small enough that there are those local celebrities? Like, would you see the Jackass guys walking around?
Sometimes. I mean, back when we used to skate around town, you know what I mean? Like, skateboarding was huge, and everyone skateboarded when I was younger. So it was like, you go around, you see Bam, you see somebody, something like that, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, like, don't talk to him.
Well, especially so if you were a skater kid, that must have been a big deal then.
Oh, the dude was like God, like, oh man.
Was skating a big thing for you when you were a kid?
Yeah, I did it. I skated every day, all day. That was like life, watching the old Tony Hawk videos where you teach you stuff. That was huge. Yeah.
That's cool, man. And you must have had like a little crew of little skaters.
Squad. I had the squad from the neighborhood. Yeah, we would wreak havoc all over that neighborhood. People's poor grass got wrecked, man. We were terrible.
Well, what kind of a place was it to grow up in? You said it was Media, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it's a small little town, and we grew up like right outside near Ridley Creek State Park. It was really beautiful. It was just like a state park. It was really pretty, a lot of woods, a lot of trails. We just ran through the woods all the time growing up and snowboarded. We had hills everywhere through the woods, so we didn't really even have to go to a mountain or something. So a lot of
you were like
activity.
An outdoor kid.
Yeah. And then music happened and became a freaking hermit.
Yeah, that will happen, man. I mean, especially, I think music producers, especially this last year with the pandemic and everything, there's that joke that like, oh, we were already used to staying inside and all that. But I've had, weeks where I realized like, man, I haven't gone outside once.
Right? It's nuts. It's crazy. I hear you.
I'm getting even paler than usual, if that were possible.
Dude, I feel you. I feel that. Warm weather's coming though.
I know, man. Yeah, I'm trying to get vaccinated, trying to get back out there. I'm raring to go now.
Dude, that's where I'm at. I have a few shows coming out all outdoor, but I'm like, I definitely want to get vaccinated prior. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Just to make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah, man, just for peace of mind. Like, yeah, it can't come soon enough to me.
Yeah, I've been a pretty big freak about it too. But I've been pretty strict with my wife and my kid and everything. Just like no one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too. Which it's funny, were you this way? Because for me, I the whole time, I've been super paranoid. I've been very strict. I've been like, following the rules more or less. Right. And it's really only, I think it's because I see the light at the end of the tunnel now. It's only like the last month where that started to become like hard for me.
I think it's also just like, things are looking more normal. So it's like, I think our brains are like, oh man, like we're right there. You see like a friend who's now like traveling when they weren't, or like, you see this and you're like, okay, maybe it's safe to step out my door, or like something like that. But right. Yeah, I totally hear you. And I think it's just like a lot of people are just over it, as bad as that sounds. You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah,
you can't be over a pandemic, but it's easy mentally to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely have a lot of empathy for people getting exhausted, being at the end of their rope. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't necessarily have a lot of empathy for the people who are actually going out and breaking the rules, but I I hear you. I get where it's coming from. Like, yeah, it's a wild thing, man. It's, I don't know. It feels like in a couple months, maybe more than a couple months, but say 6 months, people are just going to be pretending like nothing happened.
100%. It'd be like, oh, that was like 3 years ago. It's like, no, that was like a few months ago, man. Yeah, it's really true. It is true. But I hope it does turn into something that is a beautiful thing and everyone can kind of rejoice in it. And it's going to be exciting.
No, I hear you, man. Those first shows back, all that, it's going to feel really good.
It's going to be nuts.
Well, and so maybe that's a good way. We're just jumping around, but maybe that's a good way to talk a little bit about the album you have coming up.
Yeah.
Because I have to imagine at least part of that was probably written in lockdown, right?
Oh, yeah. Majority of it was. We actually had just moved into this house right when everything like locked down. So it was super weird. We were all excited. So I was like, this is a great time to build a studio, kind of like, get stuff, get a new area. So when you build a new studio, you're super inspired. You know what I mean? It's like inspiring, new space, new area. So I just like literally all I did was write, stream on Twitch. And like I actually, a lot of songs that I wrote for the album, I would stream while writing them.
Oh, that's cool.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, it was cool because some of the songs have a lot of influence from fans from watching on stream. So it was pretty cool. And some people had like these like killer ideas that I would have never thought about either. It was like, do this in a triplet. And I did it. I was like, that's sick. And I kept it.
Ah, that's cool, man. Well, I like what you're saying there because I think a lot of times when musicians or producers go and stream their production, there's kind of it's like the illusion of interactivity, right? Where it's like, yeah, you can come hang out with me while I make a song. But really, most of those people are not interacting.
Right.
They're just doing their work and they have the camera turned on. But for you to actually be paying attention to what people are saying and be open to, strangers' ideas, I think that's kind of cool. That's kind of rare.
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing of it all, man, is like, you have people who are trained musically, right? And then you have people who aren't trained musically. And I think the people who aren't trained musically have a much more like raw ear, for music, that they hear things way different than you do, just like you hear things way different than they do. Right. So you're that inspiration or that, that what they hear could be something that you'll never think of. Could be really cool. Like I always ask somebody who isn't musically quote unquote inclined, you know what I mean, who isn't trained in music to listen to a song or something if I'm really worried about it. And they always have something good to say about it, like something that they might want to hear or something like that. And it's a really special thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that because I've been talking about this idea a lot lately with people, which is that I think if you're in this game for too long, you can almost know too much by the end of it. And you can kind of get trapped by your own system of rules and the way things should be done.
Really true. Yeah, really true. It's a gift and a curse, you know what I mean? And which a lot of things are. But, I think listening to what people have to say is often good. But also keeping your own, I think pride is also always comes into that kind of stuff as a musician. Yeah. Like, I know how to do this. I'm doing this. I don't need to listen to you. It's like, nah. That's not true.
Yeah, it's like, do you know?
Yeah, like, come on. Yeah, for sure.
That's funny, man. Well, and you're fairly trained, right? And my understanding is that you were doing piano from a young age.
Yeah, I started. I was always like, we were talking about being outdoors and everything. I was always outdoors, and my sister like started playing piano. My older sister, she's 3 or 4 years older than me, and like 3.5, and she was playing piano, and I was like, that's so cool. So I sat on a piano and I just started like writing. Like, I don't know why, but I started like writing music. Just like, it wasn't, I'm sure it was horrific. It was enough for my mom to be like, yo, like, let's talk to the piano teacher. So we it was crazy. It was like turned into one lesson, then it turned into 4 or 5 lessons a week with 2 different teachers of different styles of classical music, and just turned into competing and college. And then college lasted 2 months, and I was like, I'm out.
So wait, what age were you at the very start? Like when your
11.
mom saw 11? Okay.
So I started almost like late. I started like late for a classical musician, quote unquote late. But yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. But so once you started, it sounds like you really took to it. I mean, was this the kind of thing? Because, sometimes parents can like push you into something.
Right.
Was this the kind were you into it? Did you love 4 times a week?
Yeah, I loved it, man. I mean, I missed out on a lot of stuff, but I loved it. And I loved my teachers, and like the things that they taught. They didn't just teach piano, they taught life, and a lot of things that helped me as a musician that carried over into my life. And, and
like what? What do you mean when you say that?
Like, as you grow older, I started getting into things, right, that weren't good, whether it was drugs or whatever at a young, at a certain, just like a lot of high schoolers and, just being an idiot, whatever. But, like, and they kind of obviously knew about it, and they would help me with certain things and be like, it wasn't just like, oh, your mom and dad are paying for these lessons, we're just going to teach you piano. It wasn't like that. It was like, they were friends. They were like, somebody who you can look up to, and they were just so talented. Like one of them was a Steinway artist. He was signed by Steinway. And brilliant pianist. Both of my teachers were brilliant pianists, but he really helped in a lot of things. And the other teacher was from Russia, and he helped me a lot of different things in my personal life. Just really cool stuff, and that's stuff that you never forget.
Man, I mean, that like mentor / friend relationship is so valuable if you can find it. I had kind of a similar thing. I mean, I grew up playing trumpet. Cool. And I had a couple different teachers, but my main teacher for the bulk of like my high school years was that friend, where he was super talented. He played on some Prince records, and he was in the Minnesota Orchestra. Sick. Like he was crazy, but and he was demanding, and it was like I learned a lot, all that, but he was still a friend, and so we'd go hard for 45 minutes, but then we'd spend 15 minutes and he'd let me play him, some new metal song I was excited about, and we'd talk about that, and and we'd talk about life. And it's funny until you said that, because I never really thought about the fact that had I not played trumpet, I might not have had that figure in my life at all.
Yeah, and it's like a accountability thing too. Like you said, he demanded certain like to be a certain level, and that's accountability as a musician that I think sometimes gets lost. You know what I mean? And
it's true. Really I mean, who are we accountable to now? Right?
Yeah. Like I can sit here and literally like make one note, be like I'm done. And they're just like whatever, and walk away. But or certain deadlines are personally or your management holding you accountable and stuff, and that's something that is familiar. So
yes. Very familiar. Well, so I'm really interested in kind of that classical pianist track. Like, how quickly did it become serious to the point of competitions and travel and that sort of thing?
I think when my teacher, Dima, his name is Dmitry Borozovsky, and he basically told my parents, hey, I see something in him. We can really, like, he's learning at a certain rate. He can learn, his fingers work in a certain way. And all this, I do not mean to be prideful. I'm just saying how it went. I just, I could play well, I could do it. And I like competing. Like I've always been a competitor. I love competing. I love being the best you can at something.
Did you do sports at all?
Yeah, I did some sports. I was like pretty trash at baseball. I love baseball, but I was like trash at it. I was pretty good at soccer. That was like my jam. So,
Nice.
Yeah. But it really started, I think around like 13, 14, like pretty quick, pretty quick into the training process. It went from one lesson to then 2 lessons and then 3 lessons. And then we went and did a competition to play at the Carnegie Hall in New York City. And we won it. Like we came first place. We got all this, stuff. And then we got to play in Carnegie Hall. And then I kept just the cycle, that just became training for that next competition and whatever. By the time you get like $100 or something, you're like, oh my God, it's $1 million. You're like freaking 13 years old. This is sick.
Well, I mean, I was just realizing as you were talking that I don't know the answer to this. Like what, say you had kept on that track, like what's the career path for a professional pianist? Because I have to imagine it's extremely competitive.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of, I think the problem with classical industry is there's a lot of like, well, it's dog eat dog world, even in EDM community too, right? But it's like, I don't know, pompous is a better word. You get a lot of people, it's like, I got gauges, tattoos and everything. And you don't see a lot of, like, at least at the time, a lot of people at the time that looked like me, they were, kind of dressed very proper, and there's nothing wrong. It's fine, but just a different attitude kind of thing going on in that world.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. And I felt that, and that's cool. Like, whatever. But yeah, it would have been, I went to college because I was struggling with my own thing. So I was going to plan to go to Juilliard. And then I was like, I struggled with my own things in my life. And then my teacher was as tenure teacher at Immaculata University over here in Pennsylvania. So he said, why don't you come here and try out? So I did that, went there, and then was trying to, clean up some stuff in my life, and then going to go to Juilliard. So that's kind of the path. And then after that, for performing arts, it would just be playing shows, playing a lot of like observatories, a lot of conservatories, a lot of things like that. You'd kind of go and have
the idea
shows.
Be to link up with an orchestra, try to be like a, top dog pianist in the symphony?
It could be, but I was much more personally, I was going down the solo route of solo play, which is almost like, it feels like a dying breed. I really don't know how much it is, but it feels like a dying breed. Like I went to a few professional solo piano shows who are really well renowned in the piano community. And it was a very like, it was like 100 people, sometimes bigger if it's at the Kimmel Center or something like that, but it was a lot of times, a lot of the shows are just small shows during the day on Saturday, Sundays, and you have 100 people who are real enthusiasts, and it's a very quiet, calm experience, very almost hoity-toity, if you will.
Yeah,
like the hors d'oeuvres and everything like that. But yeah, it just became something that wasn't me. I'm like, I don't want that no more. So I found EDM, I fell in love with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and we'll talk about that in a second. I'm just curious. Is there anybody out there, piano-wise, today that you think is doing any really interesting stuff? Anyone you would recommend?
Well, I mean, if you would go, obviously, he's much more than just a pianist. He does everything. He's like Hans Zimmer. We all know Hans Zimmer. Yeah. I think he's taken like classical and his training and just brought it obviously to a whole new level. He played at Coachella. You know what I mean? And that's crazy. But
I'm talking about the influence that he, the number of people his music has reached and touched. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah. And, I don't know his full training, but there has to be some classical in there, I'm sure. But I think someone like Jenny Kissen has always done really cool stuff. And he's always been pretty cool. I've always liked a lot of his pieces and how he plays them. But a lot of, I think that would be pretty much it from what I know are people still kind of in the game,
Do you know a pianist named Kelly Moran?
It sounds familiar.
She's really dope, man. You might want to check her out. She does prepared piano pieces. Okay. So it's, more experimental. She's like putting, like a nail in the strings and then playing a piece. So there's kind of all these like weird harmonics.
Like more modern, maybe.
Yeah, way more modern. I think she put out a record on Warp.
Cool.
But it's all piano. I mean, it's just her playing this piano that's kind of just been fucked with a little bit.
Crazy.
But so, you mentioned that electronic music kind of started taking a lot of attention. How did electronic music come into your life? Do you remember the first time you heard it?
Oh yeah. It was, I was the kid on the school bus. I mean, I'm 30 years old now. So I guess 15 years ago, started freshman in high school. And I was listening to like old Tiesto, ATB, all that, like old, really classic trance stuff I just fell in love with. Like even when Cascada came out of the record, I was like, this is sick. And everyone was like, this is whatever. And I was like, no, this is sick. But probably around 14, 15, I started really falling in love with electronic music, and listening to a lot of electronica and trance and kind of stuff like dubstep. I didn't really know much about, but then like even back in the day, you get a bunch of dub plates of like, Excision and stuff like that. I used to do a bunch of stuff with Rotten Records and stuff like,
Right.
But yeah, around there, I was just like, this is sick. I was listening to it all the time. And then 18, go to college, and I was like, I want to do this. And I tried to figure out how to make music, and it was terrible. At first, it was horrific. I'm sure the majority of producers were terrible. You know what I mean?
Of course. Everyone's terrible at the start.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why my parents let me drop out of college.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that must have been a weird moment for you and for them, right? Because especially if you had been so focused on the piano and taking it so seriously, like putting in all these hours to then, all of a sudden, because I think especially when you're young like that, taking on something like that, it really becomes your identity.
100%.
And then it's like, well, if I don't have that, then, it's not only what do I do, but it's like, who am I?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And there was definitely, I don't know how much of an identity crisis it was, but I know my parents were very much like they actually were more supportive than I could ever imagine. Like it was like month 2 of college, and I was like, I want to go make electronic music. Like this is what I love. And I had my little tiny studio with like these like Logitech speakers right in the basement of their house. And I was like, that's what I want to do, because I was commuting, because you could drive to college. And my mom was like, all right. They're really cool. They never once like skipped a beat. They're like, all right, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Like they just believed in the music, I think, and like what could happen. And I mean, feel terrible. I mean, I kept them up all night with that, the bass and everything, man. It was freaking crazy.
Yeah, I did a similar thing to my folks for sure.
Yeah, but they believed in music, so they were always about it, which it was pretty crazy. I thought it was going to go a lot different when I told them I wanted to leave college. But
are they musical at all? Was there any precedent for you going down this path?
No, not at all. I mean, my dad like painted a lot, growing up and stuff like that, but nothing crazy, just as like a hobby, just for fun. But yeah, no music, no.
That's interesting. And did your sister keep up with piano at all?
When she ended up going to Villanova, and as soon as she went to Villanova, it's kind of like that just became nothing. She was focusing on other things.
Yeah, but no, and that's the way it goes for a lot of people. I mean, even for me, I dropped trumpet when I went to college.
Yep.
And it's a big regret, man, because it's, I want to get back into it, but I already know.
It's always there, man.
It is always there. I mean, trumpet, it's probably similar for piano because there's some muscle memory involved for both. But trumpet too, you got the actual muscles you got to rebuild in your mouth, and
I'm sure
I'm just gonna sound like a dead duck for the first
year. I hear you, man.
Yeah, it's rough. So actually, here's a question: do you keep up with piano? Like, do you practice at all?
No. And that's really cool you mentioned that, because my dad bought me a beautiful piano when I was really getting into this. It's a beautiful 7'6" Yamaha, and almost concert, and just gorgeous piano that I think will be in our family forever. One of those pianos, I love it. So we were I go over there, but obviously with this year, my parents being old, I haven't been able to chance to go over. But usually when I go over, I always play for like an hour, just like hanging out, but not practice. I really don't practice anymore. And I've been thinking about it. That's why it's funny you bring it up. Because I'm like, I would love to practice again and learn pieces again. And, and kind of like, it's really good for your muscles, your arms, your fingers, and just like your mental space, is learning something,
Oh man. Yeah. 100%. And I think especially as we get older, this is definitely an old man podcast. Like, it's hard, we learn less and less, ironically.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it just seems like so much work at a certain point.
Dude, it's so true. It really is. This year, though, is an exception, which you might even agree with. Like, I feel like I've learned more stuff this year with all of the streaming and cameras and everything,
Well, yeah, that's definitely something we've all had to learn at least a little bit. Did you dive into that pretty hard? Were you streaming a lot?
Yeah, I was doing a MitiS Monday, and then I was doing a Tuesday, like a Tuesday session. I think I did a Wednesday studio stream, doing music, and then a Thursday like Q&A or hangout or gaming with fans and stuff.
No, that's a lot, man. That's a significant amount of hours.
And then the random, have too many drinks and jump on the spin on a Saturday,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, having fun. But we made the best of it,
Yeah, of course, man. No, it's good. And it's a good way to stay connected to people. I mean, for you, I guess that's another question. Are you the kind of person who likes being around a lot of people? Are you comfortable in that kind of environment? Or are you more like me, where that can kind of be draining after a while and you kind of got to go off to your little corner and recharge?
It's 100% draining, man. And, and it makes me feel bad, though, because I love hanging out with fans, or I love hanging out with people, whatever. But I do like being alone. You know what I mean? Yeah. I like my alone time and my little cave time and stuff like that. So sometimes it is like with a recharging. I love recharging and stuff like that. But, if you push me into a room with people, I'll still go, I'll still be chill. Like,
of course.
We'll have a good time.
Well, and this is something I've talked about before on the show. I think this kind of career that we have, it forces you to learn how to do that, even if you don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah, 40 date tour or something. You're going to be around people every single night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, you're definitely right.
Yeah. Let's talk about the road for a minute. How was it for you? Again, this is poor interview technique. I'm jumping all around, but when you first started really touring and really getting on the road heavy, how was that as an adjustment for you? Because I think for a lot of people, if you go from just sitting in your bedroom or sitting in your studio hours and hours every day for years, and then all of a sudden you're just out on the road and it's like go, go, go all of a sudden.
Right. I think at first it was like exciting. The first tour I did, like my agent Max, he kind of threw me out there. He was like, "You're going to do this. We're going to build as a headline act. You're not going to do this support thing. You're going to go right out there." I was like, dude, and let me tell you, it was rough, right? Real rough. Like some shows,
let me pause that real quick, because that's actually really interesting. That's not something everyone does. The more traditional route is, oh, well, we'll have you open up for this person for 3 months, and then you'll do support on this tour. But so were you turning down offers for a while to support people in order to go out on your own?
We had a bunch of offers that coming in, and it wasn't about the money, it wasn't about anything. It was just like, that was his vision for, and he's still my agent today. So obviously we're all happy. It's all good. But this was years ago, in 2013, I think was the first tour, Change Will Come. And it was tough. Some shows had like 10 people, 8 people, you know what I mean? It was like, man, what am I doing? Like doing this, but it was just like, keep going. And that kind of slowly started build into, like, it feels weird now if I direct support, you know what I mean? It feels weird if I do this now, it's like, I mean, I can't sell out a full Bill Graham yet, you know what I mean? Right. But, I'll of course do something like that, but
but that's okay too, that's what I like about those kind of stories is that I think there's this myth, people who maybe aspiring artists or people who are just kind of watching the dance music scene unfold on Instagram, there's this perception that like everybody is trying to do the exact same thing and that everyone has the exact same goals and that those should be your goals and there's only one definition of success.
Yeah, one road.
Right. Yeah, which always drives me crazy because for me, of course, it's great fun to go play a show in front of 10,000 people, some giant stadium or some big festival. But, I also love tiny club shows. And sometimes, a room of 100 people who came to see you and are excited about what you're doing and there's nothing else. It's so pure. That kind of feeling, man, I don't know. I don't know if you can beat it.
No, and you can't. And even when you ask like the big dogs, you know what I mean? And who do play the freaking, 10,000, 20,000 stadium stuff, like those guys, says a lot of them say the same thing, they'll be like, hey, like, we love these small shows with the 250 club in North Carolina, who everyone comes out and they're just like raging, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
That's fun.
Of course, because I think too, when you get to a certain point, and you've probably had these conversations with some people as well, it's like, it's so easy. Sorry, my cat's crawling.
No, it's great. I love it, dude. I have 3 dogs. So
okay, so you know the struggle. But it's funny, man, because it's like, it's so easy to get jaded, I think, when you hit a certain level of success and things are going so well that there's not really any time to process the wins or the successes. We both have friends who are extremely successful, like beyond, like celebrity level successful. Right. And you watch those people go do their shows and sometimes it's like, I'm not even sure you're having fun.
Yeah, it's just kind of like robotic, it's just going, you're doing it and just there. I totally hear that, man. I totally hear that. Yeah. And there's different ways though to make it have fun. You know what I mean? Like, make it rejuvenating. I think taking breaks is also really healthy, taking breaks and like vacationing or just relaxing and being again back into a normal, pedestrian's lifestyle is really important. You know what I mean?
Dude, so important.
I try. Like I am by no means any like massive artist, but we've had garnered a lot of success, and I always make sure like one, my wife would whip me if I was ever prideful. So, it would be bad. But no, it's very good to I think keep yourself humbled and grounded, and if you don't like what you're doing, then change it. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. I mean, how have you been able to figure out how to do that for yourself? Because I think, again, if I take these hypothetical, like giant artists that we're talking about, for some of them, I don't think they know how to take a break or how to take time for themselves. For you, how did you, what do you do for yourself? If it's taking a break, if it's going outside, do you have anything you've sort of figured out that keeps you balanced? Yeah,
I think it's friends, man. Like my friends are still the same friends I've had for years. Like, I really don't make a lot of new friends. And they are just like the best, and it's just like that kind of brings everything back to home, that I don't have to think about this or this deadline or this money or this show or something like that. I can kind of just be like, I'm always going to be Joe, before MitiS. I'm always going to do this before this. And just remembering that it's all because people love your music doesn't mean that you're any different.
Yeah.
in my opinion, like it's
Yeah.
like you're
100%.
sharing yourself with the world. But yeah, friends have been a big factor. My wife, you know what I mean? And I think having a kid is also extremely humbling.
Right. Because then it can't be about you anymore, right?
No, yeah, everything's about my son and my wife. So it's really, and that's good. And there's things that keep you grounded, and, you look at like massive people, right? Like Post Malone. Like that dude seems like the happiest dude on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
And because he hangs out with his friends all the time. And I think it's like has a big deal to do with like always being like that'll be my dog for life. That's my homie. That's
a really good point, man. And yeah, I mean, Post too, you can tell he's just doing what he wants to do.
Literally. Yeah.
Like, a lot of the moves he's doing don't make any sense,
tournament. Yeah. A beer pong tournament. Like what? Just because he can and he wanted to, that's fun. And that's stuff that will keep you grounded and happy, I think.
Yeah. I feel like too, the fact that you kind of stayed close to home probably helped with that.
Yeah, I love home. Like I've been asked so many times to move out to LA and I'm like, nope. Nope. My family's here. Everybody's here that I love. And this is where I'm going to stay. I'll fly out there every other weekend if I need to, you know what I mean? That's fine. But
yeah. Well, I mean, what about the first few times you did go out there, or the first few times you went to New York, or, really like got yourself in the scene like that?
Yeah.
Was that fun? Was that enjoyable?
Yeah. The first time, especially like going to LA, because New York, like I've been up tons of times and I already played at Carnegie Hall and stuff like that. So I kind of got the glamorous idea of it. But going to LA, I was like, dude, like we're doing it. It was like we're in LA, which is like everyone says their first time going out to LA. Like this place is it. It's the place of dreams or whatever. And and now I'm like, oh, I have to go to LA. You know what I mean? I'm just like, it's hot and, but I love seeing my friends out there and stuff. That's the most fun, but
yeah. Well, and especially once you're in, a touring, like once you can reliably tour, that's always going to be there, right? Is you'll go on tour and that's when you'll travel around and get a bunch of different experiences.
Yeah. And I already have my agent's done a great job. We've played so many places that now like I have my favorite restaurants in like a lot of cities. I'm like, oh, when I go here, I'm going to go eat at, whatever Crab Shack or something like that, which is really cool. And I bring my friends along all the time. A lot of artists bring their friends along because they don't get the chance to travel a lot. So it's like, hey, come on, let's come. Let's have fun.
Absolutely, man. And the theme, I think, is friendship, right? Throughout this whole conversation and keeping people around you who are going to kind of keep your head level.
Definitely.
I think that's such an important thing, man, because for so many people, I think it's so tempting once you get a taste of the glitz or the glamour to just jump full on into that and 100%. Then realize a couple of years later that a lot of your new friends really aren't that good of a friend.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Keep the friends that you have now, the people that really matter is really important. At least it's made a difference in my life,
Oh, dude, 100%. And I mean, let's jump back a little bit to, this leaving high school, going into college, still thinking about, the piano career, but getting kind of tempted by the electronic.
Such a weird era.
I'm sure, man. Well, and you mentioned you were going through some personal stuff too to take care of. There's like a lot of shit flying around.
Yeah.
So once let's talk about, you got to college and you were, that was still, it was going to be piano was the thing, right?
Yep.
And then very quickly that stopped. Like what happened once you got to college?
I was like super high, like all of the time.
Yeah.
Like I was like really fucked up on drugs and like, I would just go in and just like leave class to go to the piano hall just to play piano. You know what I mean? Just like, I wouldn't care. And I was like, I just wanted to do music. I didn't want to learn any of this. Like I would be in theory class and like a lot of these people didn't even know any theory. And I would just like, I already knew it. I was like, what am I doing here? Kind of idea and kind of maybe a little bit pompous, but you never know what could be the drugs or whatever, guys,
of course.
But I think, that was pretty much it was weird, driving. I would drive there, God, and like, then just like leave when I felt like it and go back home and just like, whatever, it was super strange time. And I was just like, what am I doing? And I would go home and like freaking, take some, like write music for 8 hours, you know what I mean? 9 hours. Just have fun.
And was this period also when you were starting to try to make electronic music?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. I think, dude, I started with GarageBand. I was like, this is not working. And ironically, Kill the Noise like came out with the thing. He was on Reason, and I like loved Kill the Noise. It was like he was freaking just like so sick. And like Jake now, like I talk to Jake now. It's so crazy. Life comes full circle sometimes, you know? Yeah. And like Jake's a friend, and it's just like he came out with these like Reason patches and patch banks, and you had to play a video game. And I was like, that era, that's what it reminds me of, like that, and getting like, I was like, I'm gonna sound just like Kill the Noise, dude. Yep. You know? And it sounded horrible, you know?
Well, Reason is such a hard learning curve too.
Yeah. It was so weird, man. It was crazy.
I like that you said video game though, because it really is like a video game. Mm-hmm. Were you a gamer as well? Did it appeal to that part of your brain?
I'm an avid gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play video games all the time, dude.
I was going to say, I'm just looking at your keyboard now. I shouldn't have even asked.
Oh, yeah.
That's a gamer keyboard.
Yup. This is nerded out, man.
I love it.
Yup.
Well, so that's interesting too, because I think the gamer brain, there's definitely a subset of music producers who have that, where it's like, you're trying to beat the game, right? You're trying to get to the next level of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. yeah. I game a lot and stuff like that. I've always gamed a lot.
Well, and it's cool you were able. I mean, do you think gaming and that kind of mindset, is that what allowed you to sort of really dive into electronic music in a way? Because looking at it not as work, as something to learn, but it's like, oh, this is just fun. Like, let's get to the next level.
Yeah, and I think it was cool. Is ironically friends again, like friends. Like I had this basement at my parents' house, and it was like obviously I had a door to go outside, right? And so like friends would come over all the time, and we would just make music together, and then go over, play some video games, play some Call of Duty, and then be like, oh, it was like this really glamorous lifestyle of like no responsibility. You know what I mean? And then like I was working a little bit, and making money, stuff like that. And then eventually things just kind of like broke down, fell apart, got my life straightened out. And then it went, things went on, weird thing about me is things have just been like quick. Things just happen, like make decisions and you got to do it.
Oh yeah. Are you that kind of person where it's, maybe it takes you a while to get to the decision, but once you make it, it's kind of just game on?
Yeah, it's game on. It's done. We're gonna, I hustle. You know what I mean? Like I'm not, with drugs. It's like no more drugs, so no more drugs.
Right.
It's kind of that was it. Move on. You got some help, but like nothing crazy. And then yeah. And then just music and writing has always just like been so sick. You know what I mean? Like even like I'm vaping now because I'm trying to I'm like 2 months off of cigarettes or something like that.
Oh, good for you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, my wife was like, when he turned 30, he got quit. I was like, all right, that's good. That's a deal.
Right. How's that going?
It's all right. I mean, it's a little vape. I'm on zero nicotine now, whatever. It's helping now. And probably another month or so, I'll stop that and just like be good.
Oh, that's good,
feel a lot
man.
better.
Yeah. That's great. And so, once like with that kind of mindset, once you had made that decision, really started going hard on dance music, what were kind of the first little inklings of success, or that there might be some potential there that you got?
I did this like EP on Heavy Artillery Recordings way back in the day. And like they were like neck and neck with Play Me and all this stuff way back. And it was pretty cool. And then Play Me just like blew up and stuff. But they've been nothing but they're always great. You know what I mean? But Give My Regards, this song Give My Regards, like for some reason all of a sudden like people like Borgor started playing it at festivals and all this stuff, and I was like, this is sick, no way, I'm just a little kid in Pennsylvania hanging out with my friends making music, this is crazy.
Right.
And then I was like really into writing melodic stuff. That was like a heavier dubstep song, and like so I just like put out melodic stuff and it started just like taking off online. I don't know why. It just like people were like, this is sick, right? Like they were like, this is different. This is like, people weren't really doing it. You had like 7 Lions and Black Mill kind of doing it.
And that was kind of it, right? Like I feel, I was trying to think about this earlier, was, now I think melodic dubstep is such an established kind of sound. But back then it was kind of rare, right? Yeah.
And people like look down on it too. People were like, this is fake, or like, this is whatever. Like a lot of dubstep guys are like, well, this is like wussy stuff, whatever. I was like, no, I'm just like making music, But it really was just like this like hidden gem, and you had people like It was literally like 7 Lions, Blackmail, and like Gemini maybe at that time, really pushing like this melodic idea, and stuff. And I came out with it, and then Mr. Suicide Sheep on YouTube like uploaded one of the songs, and it just like did crazy, and it did really well. And I started seeing it, and this is what I was like, this is the path I wanted to go. I didn't want to write dubstep the rest of my life, like personally. I wanted to do like melodic dubstep, and like stuff that I like writing, I don't want to, I struggle sitting there making growls all night. You know what I mean? Like I can't do it personally.
Yeah.
But
I can't either, man. I mean, I think I've talked about this a lot, but it's, there's this like sound design, like war where it's just producers like competing with producers, which is cool. And some of the shit people do is like mind blowing to me.
Mind blowing. Yeah.
But I think sometimes the fact that there's an audience gets lost,
100%.
And that this is, dance music at the end of the day. And just that there's not one right way to do it. I think a lot of times, again, people get convinced there's only one right way to do it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think a lot of producers get stuck that they can only do this one thing as well. Even successful producers, like you hear them, they're kind of writing the same thing, or like the loudness wars and this. And like, I just wanted to like almost like give them a hug and be like, like give them a COVID hug and be like, yo, dude, like you're cool. Like you try something else, you'll be great at it. And like, it's crazy. You get these guys who are like heavy dubstep cats, and then they like write a melodic song, and it's like really, it's pretty good. You know what I mean? It's like, it's entertaining, it's good, it feels good. But whatever makes you happy writing makes you happy.
Well, I mean, I talked to, just a couple weeks ago, I talked to Funkcase for this show. And we went deep on, I guess a couple of years ago, he put out, I think like his first real melodic, he had a top line, he had a vocalist, all that kind of thing. And he was saying that he was convinced, everyone would just destroy him. Like he almost didn't want to put it out. And then it ended up being, I guess, one of his like most successful tracks in recent memory.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. And I think it's just as like, I think a lot of generations, it's like a generational shift. You know what I mean? Like you had like when we were a little bit younger, you had, you were bumping Feed Me in your car and bumping Skrillex and like all these heavy dubstep songs, right? Like people still do that, but you get a lot of people enjoy the study music or enjoying the car music and just like kind of feeling something. And, I mean, dude, don't get me wrong. Like there are some days I get in my Jeep and I'm like freaking, bumping, like some dubstep and stuff. But yeah, I think things just change and people are really talented in music. A lot of these producers are so talented and they can do whatever they want to do with music, Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your music under that lens, because I was listening to a bunch of your older stuff, a bunch of your newer stuff. And to me, there's a lot of cohesiveness in your body of work. Like it all sounds like you know what I mean? Sort of regardless of what the exact song is. But, for you, was there ever a time anywhere in there where you sort of felt like you wanted to do something but weren't sure you could, or weren't sure how it would be received, or maybe someone was telling you to make it sound different, anything like that?
Yeah, it would be the Born EP, which was actually the EP that really put me on some sort of map. It was like thing that maybe like my agent was like, we're getting offers, we're getting this, and it was there, and there was good stream numbers and stuff like that. It was the Born EP because I wrote a bunch of songs, or like 2 of the songs I'd released just on SoundCloud, right? And then I wrote the rest, and I actually had just gotten my first manager, who's not a manager anymore, would bring me out to LA. We were talking about my first time out in LA. And he was bringing me out. So I released the EP, right, in the morning, or I guess it was midnight that last night, but it wasn't like that then. And then so I wake up, everything's out, get on the airplane. And by the time I land in LA, I'm getting like blown up by a bunch of my friends, right? I'm getting like a bunch of my friends are just like call and text. Like, I didn't have Wi-Fi then on airplanes. I don't even think, or they did, but I was broke as a joke and I couldn't afford it. And I get on, and everyone's like, dude, like this EP is like doing really well. Like, so what'd you do? And I was like, I don't know. Like all we did was release it. So that was like crazy, that was a pretty like, that really took off.
And after that, did you feel either internally or externally pressured to follow it up? Did you feel like,
yeah. exciting though. It's like positive wise. Like it was like, the pressure was good. It was like, okay, this is a sign that I should continue this path of melodic dubstep or melodic stuff, you know?
Yeah. Rather than pressure being bad, it's more the pressure of like, oh, finally I found something that's working. Like this is, yeah.
Which is crazy because like I said, like I didn't want to write heavy dubstep music anymore. Like I really didn't want to. Like it wasn't my thing anymore. And like I was like really in love with just writing music. And like so it was cool. It was like a blessing, It was awesome.
Well, and you mentioned, people like Seven Lions and a few others were kind of the only other ones making that kind of sound at the time. And obviously now the new album's coming out with Ophelia, which is Seven Lions' label. So were you talking to him even back then? Have you guys had a long relationship?
No, not all the way back then. I think the first time was maybe like 2015. I think we chatted on Twitter and stuff like that. And, I just told him to love his stuff and he, reciprocated and just, it was a really nice conversation. And then we just eventually went on tour together and became close friends. And now we've been good friends ever since.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah. I mean, I've had him on this show and he was great. I don't know him super awesome, well, but yeah, it seems like a great guy. Were you on tour with him kind of early on?
No, I went on the Journey 2 tour, which was 2018, I believe. Yeah, I think it was 2018 or 2019.
Yeah.
And with him and Jason Ross. And we just like freaking, dude, we had so much fun. It was too much. We just everyone got along, I was waking Jason Ross up to a bunch of classic like 80s and 70s tunes. It turned into a really fun thing. It was a good tour.
That's great, man. And to bring Kill the Noise back into the convo for a second, that's one thing he was saying about Seven Lions' whole crew and the Ophelia crew, Jason Ross and all those people. He was like, well, that's why I keep doing shit with them, is just because I like hanging out with them.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not more complicated than that.
No. Yeah, it's definitely true. Yeah, we have a little chat on WeChat or some app. And this whole year, we've all just talked the whole time. And like anytime someone's like, man, like, feeling weird, this year sucks, and everyone's like, oh, like, shut up, dude, you're good, and like, just throw love, and everyone's like cool and having fun.
That's good. Well, no, that's great to hear, man. And it's interesting too, now working with Ophelia Records and all that. Am I right that you had your own label for a while, sort of earlier on?
Yeah, I mean, I made it just so I can release my own music because I felt like the streaming numbers like didn't matter. Like I was like, I could release over here on Dimmock or over here on this or this on this, or I could try to, and I felt like it wouldn't have made a difference in like anything.
Like they weren't more like, are you saying, because if you are saying this, I kind of agree that those label cosigns don't always mean as much as people think they mean.
And they don't. And like, if I get hate for that, that's fine. But, I've been there, done that, and I'm just not about it. And I'm like, I mean, a big reason why I chose, I still have the imprint, but I don't do anything with it. There's so much happening right now. Like, I think with the MitiS brand that like my team, like I said, like, hey, let's get Born started. Let's keep going. Let's get it going. We're all like, dude, let's wait until this year is done with the album and stuff. Like there's so much happening that let's really give it a good push when we do open it back up again.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, was there anything you learned, any experiences you had running your own label, even if it's just to put out your own music? Because I think it's interesting. I think a lot of artists, they do the flip of what you've done, where they release with a lot of different labels, and then by the end of it, they're kind of just releasing on their own.
Right. Yeah. You know what's funny? It was actually my mom's idea. Ironically, my mom has been a business lady for a long time, and she saw it was just like, I would release a song, and then the 50% that a label would take would not equate to the 50% of work that they would do, right? Yeah. Or like what it would do. So it's just kind of like, why are you doing this? And yeah, I think the biggest thing I learned was like, dude, like I don't know anything about contracts, right? Like I didn't know, like, it was whatever. So like, there's certain things that, just kind of like blew up in my face. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know. I'm sorry. And here it is, and changing things and like still trying to figure things out, and the whole thing is a figure thing out. And it's good to have management now to try to help with certain things and stuff like that, because I did have management for like 2 years, 3 years.
Well, how did that team come about? Because, we're talking about the importance of friends and the importance of keeping a closed circle, people you trust. How did the business side of that circle for you come into your life?
Like the new management and everything?
Either one. Just in general, it's, if you're someone who friends are important and you got to keep people you trust, like I have to imagine at first it's got to be weird to let somebody in on the business side.
It was, especially because I had a pretty bad experience. Well, it was great and then turned bad experience with my last manager. It just kind of turned into like
which is a show. Common story. Yep,
it is. And it's sadly so. But and then I did have management. So like Max, my agent at UTA, he was like helping me a lot, right? Helped me a lot with like management stuff. And he wasn't my manager, but he was acting the role of it and my agent, which is like too much. It was like, you're also my friend. Like I've known you forever, you know? He had, and he books an artist for Arm & Hammer. And they're good friends of mine, and their management is like, we're trying to expand and stuff, and they were fans of MitiS, and he was like, got me on a phone call with them. I love them, and ever since like we got on the phone, I was like, yeah, like they were like, we would love to manage you, and I was like, all right. So at first it was weird. I was like, nah, and then like they got to get certain information that like I didn't want to get,
of course,
stupid stuff, but it's like you need this information, right?
Well, because there's a vulnerability in that. I mean, I've had those conversations too when I was in between management. If you're getting serious with somebody at a certain point, you gotta show them the goods, right? You got to send over some numbers. You got to be very honest about where your business is.
They have like
at.
access to so much stuff. You know what I mean? That's good. It's like good, and they've helped like better my life and not just my everything. Everything's been so good since them jumping on board, which is it's great, to be comfortable with the management that you have that shows, you know what I mean? Like what it does for your career. It's not just, I got a manager and you like having a manager because you can tell people you have a manager. A lot of people are like that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like you shouldn't be like that.
Well, I mean, what should people, because I think probably there's going to be some aspiring producers listening to this. What should people look for? Do you have any advice, anything you've learned through, doing your own label, releasing on your own, building it up on your own, trying and finding the right people? Are there common pitfalls you see people falling into?
Ironically, I think it's that management thing. I think it is the management thing. And like what we were saying earlier is the pitfall of the labels, the label idea and the road, the one path, the one road. It's like, man, if you got a record that you really like fuck with and you really want to release, but that label is not hitting you back or something, like still hit people up, and like people have this idea that they're commenting on everything, like in this self-promo idea of posting like everywhere is like, that doesn't do anything but piss people off, man. Like
nobody listens to that.
Nobody listens to that. And so like, don't go places and do that, but like release the record. Like if it worked for me, like that worked for me. I literally just released the record on a no-name label, like nothing. And like, it will get heard. You know what I mean? Like these people are listening. There's a lot of talent though that does get lost because of the oversaturation. I get that. But also, if someone tells you they're going to manage you and they're like, I'm great, whatever, like look at their history before you're like, all right, look what they're doing. If they're new and you trust them, go for it. But don't do it just to have a manager is my advice.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think, in that kind of conversation, especially if it's the first time you may be getting a manager, that's so exciting to a young artist.
It's crazy.
But I think you have to remember that you're in the power position. They should be you're interviewing them. It's not the other way around.
Right.
And even if it doesn't feel that way.
And it's funny. That's so fun. That's so awesome. I love how knowledgeable you are about this because that's actually what I have a day-to-day and like my main manager, Alex, and Alex said, he was like, well, really, like you're interviewing us, like this is like, because I'm like, I don't know. I'm pretty gentle when it comes to like certain business things that I'm just like, it's just not me to be like a prick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just not me. So it was really comforting to have someone else who shares empathy and shares certain things and qualities to be like, well, look, like, I'm really happy that the phone call went well and we loved it. It was a really respectful thing, a really big thing.
Yeah, man. Sometimes you just know, right? Like sometimes it's just about being on the same wavelength, finding your kind of people.
Yeah.
Even more so than like what they can offer you.
Oh yeah. And they give me deadlines for stuff that I know like aren't the real deadline, but they know me. You know what I mean? Right. Or something like that. Like they do things that are very they geared towards my personality. And that's the kind of management you want. You know, you really want people who are going to take you into consideration when they're trying to help you.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. Well, and with all of this, I feel like we should talk a little bit more about the new album that's coming. What's the title of the new album, by the way?
Lost.
Let's talk about how it came together. Were you thinking about an album before COVID?
No, not really. I actually was just like kind of in like limbo, just like, we're going to do EPs. I'm going to do like a few EPs on my label. And maybe start boosting that up. And then I kind of just like got really inspired, and I was like, why? Like, I've only had one album out ever, and I'm like 30 years old. I'm writing right now, like some of the best music that I personally feel that I'm writing. Like, why not? Like, I should do this. Like, let's do this. And then like, I guess like Jeff, I'm like, we're friends. So we got wind of it. And I was like, well, maybe we should just give to Ophelia, cause like building Ophelia is cool. It's like my friend's label, and like, let's do that. And I know that they've helped a ton. So it's great.
Yeah, that's great, man. And I mean, what's your writing process look like these days? Do you start songs on the keyboard, or can it vary?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time it's a keyboard or guitar, or like, an idea from guitar or something like that. A lot of times it does come from like writing on the keyboard though.
Yeah. Has it changed over time? Like, is there, especially in the context of this new album, do you feel like you were doing anything differently than you used to do, either production-wise or just mentally thinking about it differently?
Yeah, for sure. Some of the songs like started from a top line, and I wrote the songs around the top line, and then we'd go back and change certain vocals in the top line, and like, or ask them to re-record things or something like that, which always like feels so bad because I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was different because you used to be like, write a song, write a demo it out, you get the vocals back. But I found sometimes like vocalists struggled with like what I was really trying to portray. And I don't blame them at all. I mean, like a lot, it's hard, and like sometimes I would put too much in the demo that it would like overcomplicate it. You know what I mean? So that's like my fault as a producer.
Yep.
So I found things that worked for the production,
Yeah, well, learning how to collaborate is, I think, a key in what you're talking about, especially with vocalists, where you're not exactly speaking a different language, but I think the way vocalists think about a track is very different than the way producers think about a track.
Yes,
and
100%.
If you're like me, because you talking about like you couldn't always convey to them what you wanted it to be, I think that's super relatable, because of course nobody's ever going to hear what the music sounds like in your head, right?
Right.
And for me too, I'll get ahead of myself, and I'll get this huge concept in my head before I even present it to anybody else. And then it's, when somebody else hears it, it's way too much. It's super overwhelming.
100%, man. And it, that's definitely true. And I think that's the thing where you learn like as yourself as a producer, and you keep going. And like some people I know, some like artists, even of like well-renowned artists, like they'll send like a demo that's like so dumbed down, right, to the vocalist, be like, sing it. So then they're still kind of writing they're writing around the lyrics, right? They're writing around the vocal and stuff like that. And I think so. Yeah, with this album, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of communication, dude. We got so lucky. It's like the vocals for this album are insane. Like they just absolutely just like killed it, and like it wasn't a lot of work with the vocalist. It was like really like, I don't got much more to say. Sometimes it was like, could you fix this? Could you fix that?
Were you working with new people, people you'd worked with before?
Yeah, most of the people on this album are all new vocalists that I've never worked with before, but like I admired their work, and I was like, I love this top liner. I love her voice. I love his voice. It was like, I would love to work with this person. Yeah, it's all new.
That's great, man. And I don't know, your music, I heard the album, and it's, exactly what you're talking about, man. I can hear all of this conversation in it. It's really good. It's like, I keep wanting to use the word cinematic. Is that something?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Is that a compliment to you?
Yeah, definitely. Especially because I was really trying to go for like, not that basic, just like guitar, vocal, carbon copy stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like add these pads that are made from all guitar, or add these things that are, but bring a pop element with the elements that I really like and stuff like that into it.
Yeah, I mean, there were sections in some of the songs that really, I mean, it sounded like it could have been from a pop song, like a straight up pop song, or
Yeah.
from, a totally different genre, from a singer-songwriter. It was really interesting because, there were just some textures and some arrangements that seemed really unfamiliar to me in EDM. And I mean that in a good way.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I think it's one of those things you take a leap of faith and I'm gonna put it out and we're gonna
right.
hope the best. But it was just something that I really enjoyed making, and it wasn't an album that I overthought. I didn't underthink it, didn't overthink it. I just kind of wrote, put it together, and was like, these work together, and we're gonna try it, and there it is. And I hope my fans enjoy that.
I think that's the best, man. I think that's when it's pure like that, when you're not overthinking it, like we were talking about. It's easy to do. I think that's when music's at its best, man. It's just, I had a good time making this. Here it is.
Right. And that's what I'm so excited about it. And like, it's already been received so well. And I'm like so blessed and so thankful for all the fans who did like the 3 singles that have been out from it. I'm just like, they're doing really well and everything. I'm just like, it is mind blowing. You're right. Like when you just do something that you love and you're just like, just doing it, and you're not overthinking it, and you're not trying to overmarket it or whatever.
Right.
It definitely is it's a really nice thing. And that was always our goal, was like, let's not overmarket it, but let's get it in front of people's faces, but let's not overmarket it kind of thing.
I love that, man. The restraint as a concept doesn't happen a lot in EDM.
No, it doesn't.
Just in any area of EDM.
No, it doesn't.
so I love hearing that, man, because there's so much power in restraint. There's so much power in silence, and just the idea of, knowing when to stop. Like
80 Instagram stories tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Reposting 100 things that nobody's ever going to see.
Nope.
Yeah, 1 million hashtags. All that shit is, I don't know. That's a whole separate podcast. But let me ask you this. I mean, for you, like going forward, we started off talking about how eventually the world's sort of slowly returning to normal. We're going to be back on the road soon. You're putting out this new album. What is, you're like pretty deep into this career at this point. What does success look like to you? Do you still have goals that you're trying to get to? What's the version of winning the game for the MitiS project in your mind?
Now it's turned into something that is like reality, like coming, you know what I mean? Like there are things that I wish I could say, but there's shows that I'm about to be headlining at the end of the year, if obviously said aloud.
Yeah.
That are just things that have been goals. They're massive shows, big ticket shows, big things that really will bring things into the next tier. And
great.
And I had a big goal of just like having a relationship with Insomniac, because I love what they do and I love the the scene. And like now that we've become like friends with them, and they know MitiS and they're aware of it, it's really awesome to see how much they've supported. So there's a lot of goals hit. But I think the biggest goal would just to be able to like, I don't know. Always a goal is like, even just for this album, it's like write music that you physically can see as being successful, because then that it's getting the most, it's helping the most people, or making the most happy, or like, it's bringing people happiness and, joy in their life with the music. Like I get messages every day, all day, that are messages I can't even read half the time because it's so emotional. I'm like, wow. I can't do that right now. I can't do it. I'll do it tomorrow, and it seems like that. So stuff like that is really goals, or even basic goals of like, I'm going to get a better mix down with this song. You know what I mean? Like simple goals like that.
Sure.
It's not about playing a show for 40K or like playing a show for 80K or some crazy stuff like that. It's like, how many people will show the show that I can like like we can have a good time.
And what I like about what you're saying too is a lot of those goals, having an effect in somebody else's life, or personally satisfying yourself with a better mix down. Those are all, that's internal things. That's like, those are personal goals rather than external goals that somebody needs to see what I'm doing, right?
Right.
Yeah. Which to me is like, okay, you're still having fun. You're still enjoying the process of it.
Definitely. And that's where it's at. Like sometimes, you see a song that like from an artist that just like sucks, right? And then it like blows up. You're like, why is this so big? I don't get it.
Yeah.
And then you like A and B it and you're like, whatever. But obviously it's all preference. I'm not trying to be a prick, but like, it's just like, you don't get it. But it was like, that's a good team. That's a good team, who literally like marketed so well, and they made it happen, and they did it, and I get that. And maybe someone else like enjoyed that song. But then you talk to your friends like, I don't like that song. I don't know. But it's crazy.
Well, I mean, especially the conversations that we have internally, man. I think everyone knows when that kind of shit is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's brutal. And it's so brutal. And it's so disheartening. That stuff's disheartening. You know, as I'm here like slaving away, trying to make the most musical stuff I can. And you hear this, you're like, what? I don't get it. Maybe I'm old. You know, I don't know.
It's true, man. But it's a wide playing field too, is the other thing, right?
Yeah.
Is that, like something, because that used to frustrate me when I was younger, is hearing something and being like, well, this sucks. Like, why is this getting so much love and something I think cool not getting so much love? But these days, I'm much more able to be like, well, this still sucks, but it's not really taking the slot from something else, you know?
No, it's just there. It's just living in its own space, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're definitely right. But things like that discouraged me. But I think there's a lot more encouraging than discouraging.
Well, yeah, and you've got your team, you've got your friends, you've got your squad of like-minded people. And I think at the end of the day, I mean, this is like the recurring theme of this whole conversation, but that's the only thing, that's the foundation you need, right?
Yeah, and dude, even like, God forbid anything like went south with MitiS or something like that, it's like, dude, like the fact that like I can go into like a Discord named the MitiS Mob and like talk to these people who listen to my music is like enough success in my mind for like, that's big. I mean, that's amazing. You know, it's like emotionally, you know, it's incredible. Like that's so inspirational, that can bring so much happiness. Like that's success. You know, that's happiness.
That's beautiful, man. I love that. Well, before we get out of here, let me make sure, is there anything we haven't talked about? Anything else that's on your mind or that you want to let people know about?
No, just besides like look for a really big tour towards the end of the year, if possible. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but we're going to say it. So we're doing it.
I love it, baby. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question. It's just, I ask this at the end of every interview here. It's a real simple kind of first thing that pops into your head kind of question.
Cool.
Just looking for a time in your life, a memory. It could be from any time, like when you're a kid, 5 minutes ago, anytime, when in a single moment, music really had a deep impact on you, really meant something to you in that moment. And that's meant to be super broad. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah. Ironically, it was actually the day my child was born, and we get back up to the hospital room and we started playing music. And the first, we played a bunch of Caspian. I was playing Caspian, and it was definitely a moment that I was like, this is just like, it was like perfect. You know, everything was perfect. You know, you're superhero hormone, everything's like going off, you know? But it was definitely, that was the moment that I was like, man, this is just like, this is one of the music that I want to kind of incorporate. This is like beautiful. Everything was just so powerful there.
That's beautiful, man. And, you know, talk about, there can't be a more emotional moment than that. And then to sort of have the music amplifying it, which is what we're always trying to do with our music, right?
Yep.
Is amplify whatever, you know, however someone's feeling, whatever situation they're in, whatever situation we're in. I mean, yeah, it probably doesn't get any more pure or stronger than that kind of moment. That's beautiful, man. How old is your kid now?
He is about to be 8 in May.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing though. It's great. I mean, you know, he's a good freaking kid, man. I mean, like,
is he interested in music?
A little bit. He's like dabbling. He's trying, you know, and then I'll be like, all right, well, let me teach you some stuff. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. You know?
How would you feel if he was, you know, going down the music road?
I was stoked. I mean, hell yeah. Let's fucking go. You know, let's write some tunes. Let me help you. I'll show you. I mean, I got all this knowledge that I would love to pass down, but you know, I am not a forceful dad. I don't pressure him.
That's
you know,
good.
I mean, yeah, I'm not like that. You know, just a dad, love my kid, love my family. So it's like, you know, if you want to do it, I'm happy to teach you. But if you're not, I'm not going to sit here and try to show you when you don't want to.
Of course.
I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time.
That's a good dad talking right there. Because, you know, he'll come to it, I bet, but it'll be on his time.
On his time, yep.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I appreciate your time. This has been super fun.
Dude, hell yeah. I really appreciate you as well, man. Been really looking forward to this.
Me too, man. No, I'm really glad we made this happen.
Yeah, me too. I'm actually, it's funny because, interview, it's always online and typing and stuff, and
Right.
questions. And it's really cool just to talk about these things with someone who really knows what they're talking about and has done this and you have experience. So I really appreciate you, man.
Oh, thank you, man. No, feeling is very mutual. All right, man. Take care.
All right, later.
Peace. All right, that's the show. Shout out to MitiS. Thanks for coming on, man. That was great. For everybody out there listening, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Don't forget the new album from MitiS, Lost. It's out right now. And there's a link in the description of this episode where you can go grab it, stream it, love it, and live in it for as long as you would like. You can also follow me at Willy Joy or at BackToBackPod on all social media. BackToBackPod@gmail.com is the email address. And you're also going to find in that description a link for the Back to Back Discord. Come join the awesome community of people we've already got in there. We would love to have you. If you're a music producer, come share what you're working on, get some feedback on your whips, give some feedback to somebody else, share some music you're really into right now, and just come and hang out. It's a great clubhouse. It's a great place to just hang. So come join the Discord. Go grab the new album from MitiS. And guys, that pretty much does it for this week. Another episode in the can. Look, I've been recording a lot recently. There's so much more on the way, so much more I'm excited to share with you, some ideas we've been working on for a long time that I'm excited to tell you about. But until then, I hope you, the listener, are doing well out there. I'm thinking about everybody out there. I'm sending everybody out there lots of love, lots of encouragement, lots of support for anything you're dealing with, going through right now. Lots of support for anything you're working on, any goals you're trying to accomplish. It is all within your grasp, and that's what I want you to remember this week. Shout out to everybody who has been supporting the show so hard over the last crazy pandemic year. Shout out to all my day one listeners. I know a lot of you are out there as well. Look, and just for everybody, have a great week. That's it. I love you guys. I will talk to you next Tuesday. For Back to Back, this is Willy Joy. Peace.